innovative transportation system on socio-economic development of a multicultural region.
India's Voice to the World. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. US's Blinken says Russia must pay for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. Putin expresses readiness for talks on Ukraine on Chinese proposal.
Putin destroyed, Russia should and must pay to rebuild.
China vows to take all necessary actions in response to new tariffs slapped by US President Biden on Chinese imports. Georgia's foreign agents bill prompts angry reactions at home and abroad. US calls it a Kremlin-style law, warns that if it failed to meet EU standards, relations will be hit. And Cannes Film Festival kicks off with a screening of French comedy The Second Act and an honorary Palme d'Or for Hollywood actor Meryl Streep. And on to the details now. In an unannounced visit to the Ukrainian capital, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken promises more support as Russia gains ground. He asserted that what Russia should and must pay to rebuild what they have destroyed in Ukraine.
Making Russia pay for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. What Putin destroyed, Russia should and must pay to rebuild. It's what international law demands. It's what the Ukrainian people deserve.
Well, Blinken, who is visiting Ukraine after Congress passed the long-delayed $61 billion aid package, held meetings with a slew of leaders in Kyiv, including President Volodymyr Zelensky, Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba and civil society representatives. He also expressed US's intention to use its power to seize Russian assets as leaders demand to ensure uninterrupted assistance from Western partners.
Our Congress has given us the power to seize Russian assets in the United States. We intend to use it. We're working with our G7 partners to see that Russia's immobilized sovereign assets are used to remedy the damage that Putin continues to cause. The G7 can unlock billions of dollars and send a powerful message to Putin that time is not on his side.
Well, the group of 7 countries froze around $300 billion worth of Russian financial assets soon after Moscow's offensive of Ukraine in 2022. Since then, the EU and other G7 countries have debated how and whether to use the funds to help Ukraine. The United States has proposed seizing the assets in their entirety, but Europe has balked, citing risks to the euro and massive legal repercussions. More recently, Washington has pushed for using the assets as collateral to provide loans for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Blinken also reiterated Washington's unwavering support to Ukraine as the country's forces face their toughest situation on the battlefield for months.
We're going to help you hold off Russia's attacks, make it harder for them to strike you, and keep the Black Sea open so you can keep growing your economy and keep helping to feed the world. We know that time is of the essence. That's why, just 1 minute after Congress approved our massive aid package, President Biden sent ammunition, armored vehicles, missiles, and air defenses to Ukraine.
Well, Russia carried out a series of airstrikes on residential areas in the city of Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine on Tuesday, injuring at least 20 people. At least 15 garages caught fire near another residential building after being struck by the guided bombs. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, and the surrounding region have long been targeted by Russian attacks, but the strikes have become more intense in recent months, hitting civilian and energy infrastructure. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said Moscow remained open to dialogue and talks to solve the more than two-year-old conflict. Speaking to China's Xinhua news agency ahead of his visit to Beijing this week, Putin backed China's plan for a peaceful settlement of the Ukraine crisis. He said Beijing had a full understanding of what lay behind the crisis. Beijing put forward a 12-point paper more than a year ago that set out general principles for ending the war, but did not get into specifics. An update now on Israel-Gaza conflict. Israeli troops expanded their operation in Rafah, the southernmost city in the Gaza Strip, on Tuesday, with tanks advancing towards the city center amid heavy gunfire. Following hours of intense air and artillery bombardment of Rafah on Monday night, the Israeli ground offensive has forced tens of thousands of residents to flee. On Tuesday night, an Israel Defense Forces spokesman issued a new evacuation order for multiple areas west of Jabalia in northern Gaza, requiring local people to evacuate to the west of Gaza City. Meanwhile, considering the evolving situation, the Egyptian government is considering downgrading its diplomatic relations with Israel. And a former Indian Army officer working with the United Nations who was killed in Gaza was identified as Colonel Vaibhav Anil Kale. The incident took place when the vehicle he was traveling in came under attack in Rafah. The identity of Kale was revealed by UN Secretary General Deputy Spokesman Farhan Haq, issuing a statement. UN condemns all the attacks and has called for a full investigation and sent condolences to the family members. The Israeli Defense Forces said that the vehicle was struck in an active combat zone. The vehicle route in which the UN staffers were traveling were not being made aware to them. Also, the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Tuesday oversaw a tactical missile weapon system that will be newly installed at missile units of its army. Kim expressed a satisfaction with missile system production in the first half of the year and emphasized on maintaining the momentum in its bid to ensure readiness for war. Last week, Kim inspected the country's artillery weapon system and attended the test firing of such weapons. And in the latest tariff increases on an array of Chinese imports imposed by US, China has vowed to resolutely defend its interest in the face of huge new tariffs and warned that the trade barriers would affect the wider relationship between the two economic superpowers. China has already criticized the plans. China's Commerce Ministry was opposed to the tariff hikes by the United States and would take measures to defend its interest. The new measures impact $18 billion in Chinese imported goods, including steel and aluminium, semiconductors, batteries, critical minerals, solar cells, and cranes. China is deeply dissatisfied with the U.S. abuse of the Section 301 tariff review procedure driven by domestic political concerns and its increase of additional tariffs on certain Chinese products. The move politicizes trade issues and uses them as a tool, as per the statement issued by China. The World Trade Organization has already ruled that the Section 301 tariffs are in violation of WTO regulations, yet the U.S. side has continued its wrongdoing. It said the U.S. tariff hike goes against the consensus reached by the leaders of the two countries and the promises of U.S. President Joe Biden and will seriously affect the atmosphere of bilateral cooperation, said the statement. And early on Tuesday, U.S. President Joe Biden imposed heavy tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, solar cells, steel, and other goods. These include a 100% tariff on electric vehicles, a 50% tariff on semiconductors, and a 25% tariff each on electric vehicle batteries from China. The White House said the measures were a response to unfair policies and intended to protect U.S. jobs.
But for too long, it hasn't been fair. For years, the Chinese government has poured state money into Chinese companies across a whole range of industries: steel and aluminum, semiconductors, electric vehicles, solar panels, the industries of the future, and even critical health equipment like gloves and masks. China heavily subsidized all these products, pushing Chinese companies to produce far more than the rest of the world can absorb, and then dumping the excess products onto the market at unfairly low prices, driving other manufacturers around the world out of business.
Well, Laura Westbrook gets us more from Hong Kong on Chinese reaction to US tariff hike.
China has spoken out against this move by President Biden to hike up tariffs on a slew of Chinese imports into the US. These include electric vehicles, to semiconductors, to steel, to aluminium, to medical equipment. When it comes to electric vehicles, tariffs will quadruple to 100%, although it is worth noting that currently the US imports very few electric products. But they've gone far beyond electric vehicles. They've gone, for example, semiconductors. The tariffs will increase to double by the end of this year. And China's Commerce Ministry has come out and called for these tariffs to be removed, and they've said that they will respond with countermeasures. They've said that this goes against the commitment by the US to avoid decoupling with China and to not stem China's own development. And they have warned that this will impact the bilateral relationship between the two countries. And let's not forget that this is an election year in the US, and both candidates, President Biden and his predecessor, Donald Trump, have vowed to get tough on China. So that's a bit of context there for you as well.
Well, Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, was back for his second day of testimony at a New York court in the ex-president's hush money trial. He answered prosecutors' questions for about 9 hours on the witness stand on Monday and Tuesday. He testified that Trump ordered him to pay adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016 to stay quiet about an alleged 2006 sexual encounter, lest it torpedo his presidential campaign, and then approved a plan to reimburse Cohen through a series of bogus invoices. And U.S. President Joe Biden criticized former President Donald Trump's policies, particularly those perceived as discriminatory against the immigrants. Joe Biden took center stage at the 30th Gala of the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies on Tuesday. In a speech, Biden spoke about his cabinet successes, the importance of supporting the AAPI community, and criticized Trump for comments suggesting Americans should inject themselves with bleach during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The first bill I introduced, the most comprehensive immigration reform bill in decades. That was the first bill I ever introduced when I became president. But this bill had that bipartisan bill has majority support in the House and Senate. But I was told that other guy, that loser, I think he's having trouble. Trump called Republicans and to block that Senate bill. So they have to make sure you don't allow it to get to a vote. But he's wrong. Republicans in Congress must act because it's the right thing to do and America needs it done.
Well, in the Georgian capital, thousands of protesters shut down a major intersection after Parliament passed the third and final reading of a foreign agents bill. The legislation now faces a likely veto by Georgia's president, which the Parliament can override by holding an additional vote. The foreign agents law would require organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as agents of foreign influence. The White House said on Tuesday that the United States is deeply troubled by Georgia's foreign agents legislation. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said, "We are deeply troubled by Georgia's legislation. If this legislation passes, this will compel us to fundamentally reassess our relationship with Georgia."
We're deeply troubled by Georgia's Kremlin-style foreign agents legislation, which just passed, as you just stated, Parliament, and we expect the President to veto it. While it is unclear whether Parliament will try to override a potential veto, we have been outspoken about our concerns with the legislation, which runs counter to democratic values and would move Georgia further away from the values of the European Union, and let's not forget also NATO.
And in Armenia, thousands of people joined a protest march demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan to step down. Armenian police have detained some 38 people on Tuesday at the protest rally by opposition groups. The protest comes after recently announced border concessions to Azerbaijan. Armenia said last month it would return uninhabited villages as they edge towards a peace deal after fighting 2 wars since the collapse of the Soviet Union. The announcement follows the departure of nearly 2,000 Russian peacekeepers from in and around the Nagorno-Karabakh region, which Azerbaijan returned by force in September last year. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Huge manhunt in France after prison officers killed in ambush. French prosecutor describes it as extreme violence. Floods play havoc in northeastern Argentina and Brazil, displacing hundreds. In another breakthrough, ChatGPT maker OpenAI has released a new AI model capable of realistic voice conversation. We'll tell you more ahead.
In the world's largest election,
we help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This election season, join us on a journey of India.
We are in Assam. This is the tea city of India.
From down south, Tamil Nadu.
Discover the colors of democracy.
Gateway to northeast of India.
Coastal state of Kerala. Watch Poll Pulse on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuran, and moving on, Lawrence Wong will take oath as Singapore's new Prime Minister on Wednesday. Wong will succeed Lee Hsien Loong, the son of the founding father of modern Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. Currently serving as the finance minister, Wong was handpicked by the ruling People's Action Party as the Prime Minister. He'll be Singapore's 4th Prime Minister since its independence in 1965. Starting his career as an economist, Wong entered politics in 2011 but gained prominence in 2020 when he became the co-chair of the COVID task force. And UK Foreign Ministry summoned China's ambassador on Tuesday after 3 people were charged with spying for Hong Kong. The trio were accused of assisting a foreign intelligence service between December and May by agreeing to undertake information gathering, surveillance and acts of deception in Britain. China rejected the allegations and condemned the UK's accusation against the Hong Kong government. DD India's John Beaver reports from London.
Certainly the UK believes that it is very serious, and a statement that we have seen from the Foreign Office certainly reiterates that, as does the very summoning of the Chinese ambassador to the Foreign Office, which is no small step. That is a very bold statement from the UK in terms of what they have described as a pattern of recent behaviour that is unacceptable. The statement from the Foreign Office goes on to say it includes cyber attacks, reports of espionage links and the issuing of bounties. And the Foreign Office again saying that is not acceptable. So certainly strong words from the UK. And of course, as well as those concerns to do with cyber attacks and these espionage links, we had 3 men appearing in court yesterday. They are charged under the National Security Act, and that is all to do with foreign interference on behalf of the Hong Kong government. So certainly the UK taking this very seriously. As you mentioned, though, the Chinese have been very quick to refute this and coming out with a strong statement themselves. The Chinese ambassador saying the series of accusations against China were unwarranted, going on to describe them as groundless and slanderous. So certainly the two sides not backing down from what they believe are very serious accusations. You would imagine that the next step from here would be the expulsion of diplomats, of members of diplomatic staff. But I think it's important to say that I don't think we're at that step yet. Certainly there has been nothing official that could be coming. You would imagine, though, and in similar situations to this in the past with other foreign powers, certainly that is very much the first thing that happens after the summoning of a high-level diplomat.
Well, in France, a manhunt was launched after gunmen ambushed a prison convoy in Normandy to break out an inmate, killing 2 guards and wounding 3 others. Prisoner Mohammed Amra, known as the Fly, was being taken from court to a prison when a car rammed the prison van at a toll booth. Gunmen then opened fire at prison officers. Several hundred police officers and gendarmes have been deployed to carry out a manhunt. Prosecutors identified the inmate, who was freed as Mohammed Amra, convicted of burglary on May 10th and had been indicted by prosecutors in Marseille for a kidnapping that led to a death. And at least 8 people died after a bus carrying farm laborers in northern Florida collided with a pickup truck. The bus crashed through a fence and overturned after sideswiping the pickup truck and careening off the roadway. A total of 53 people were on the bus at the time of the accident. The other 37 passengers were transported to hospitals for minor injuries. And campaigners in New York City are pushing for a ban of non-essential helicopter rides. They say the thousands of rides taking place each year cause unacceptable levels of noise pollution and air pollution for residents. Some helicopter models produce as much as 950 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions per hour, which advocates say is bad for the planet and people's health. Others, though, question what impact banning riders could have on the lucrative tourism industry. Sally Patterson reports. For more, take a look.
Clearer skies and quieter lives.
In the past year, there have been 59,000 complaints filed to New York City Council over helicopter noise. Council members here are working on legislation to reduce the environmental and public health impact of non-essential flights.
One idling helicopter is 40 idling cars. We're here as in New York City trying to reduce cars on the road. We're doing all of these protocols around it. We really need to make sure that we continue being an industry leader, a climate change leader.
Yes, helicopter rides are a pull for tourists visiting the city. But those pushing the legislation say the revenue from flights isn't financially worth it.
These 2 helipads owned by the city generate about $2 million in revenue. And, we have a budget of over $110 billion in the city of New York. It is a modest amount of money in the broader scheme of things, but it has a huge negative impact in our communities.
Under current rules, helicopters can be chartered from one of the city's airports as an alternative to taxis or public transport. And several companies offer sightseeing rides for an aerial view of New York's highlights.
In just the 10 minutes or so that we've been standing here, we've seen 8 different helicopters landing behind us. From this heliport in downtown Manhattan, tourists can enjoy a ride across the city for around $250. But people living in the flight path say they're the ones paying the real price.
Mimi Kajina lives just across the East River. She tells me the flights run over her home all day, 7 days a week.
The dishes on the shelves rattle. You can't speak to the person standing next to you in your own home. You have to stop and wait for the helicopter to pass by. For an individual to have the money to harass, basically it's harassment, harass thousands of people every 20 minutes, I think it's wrong.
One of the council's proposed laws would implement a noise tax on flights taking off or landing at the city's heliports.
And if that were done, I estimate that just that tax, which would be passed on to the passengers, would eliminate a third to a half of the demand for helicopters. So it would get rid of as much as a half of helicopter flights.
But in order to outlaw the city's popular helicopter highway, campaigners likely have a choppy ride ahead. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
Well, moving on, several areas remain flooded in northeastern Argentina as heavy rains have hit southern Brazil in recent days. Hundreds displaced by the flooding of the overflowing Uruguay River. The overflowing river has mainly affected the town of Concordia. Local authorities on Monday stated that a total of 167 families comprising of 568 people had been evacuated from the flood-battered region. Also, Brazilian farmers mourn the loss of animals in flood-ravaged southern Brazil. An unusual precipitation has affected the ecosystem of Brazil, leading to the tragic loss of numerous farm animals. Livestock, which forms the backbone of the agricultural economy in this region, has been hard hit. Over 100 millions have been affected due to the constant downpour in the region. Scientists believe the pattern has been intensifying due to climate change. And the death toll from the cold lava floods in West Indonesia has risen to 58, with 35 people still missing. The cold lava floods, which were triggered by rains, destroyed buildings, roads and other infrastructure facilities in the region. The rescuers carried out rescue operations using heavy machinery and hand tools. Rescuers focuses on the estuaries of the rivers, as several bodies were already found in the areas. And a large wildfire is slowly approaching the major Canadian oil sands city of Fort McMurray. Around 6,000 people in 4 suburbs have been told to evacuate on Tuesday. The fire, fueled by tinder dry conditions and high winds, has been threatening the city in the western province of Alberta since last week. The fire has grown in size as it now has flamed more than 10,000 hectares of the region. Well, ChatGPT maker OpenAI has released a new AI model called GPT-4o, capable of realistic voice conversation and able to interact across text and image. Its latest move to stay ahead in a race to dominate the emerging technology. Here's a report.
Could we soon be having real conversations with AI?
I want to introduce you to somebody.
Well, hello there, cutie. What's your name, little fluffball?
This is Bowser.
ChatGPT maker OpenAI has released a new model called GPT-4o, capable of realistic voice conversation and able to interact across text and image.
The hottest temperatures occur around July.
New audio capabilities let users speak to ChatGPT and obtain real-life responses with no delay. They can also interrupt ChatGPT while it is speaking. Both of these new capabilities are hallmarks of realistic conversations that AI voice assistants have found challenging up until now. OpenAI researchers showed off GPT-4o at a live stream event.
So I'm on stage right now, I'm doing a live demo, and frankly, I'm feeling a little bit nervous. Can you help me calm my nerves a little bit?
Oh, you're doing a live demo right now? That's awesome. Just take a deep breath.
In another demo, ChatGPT used its vision and voice capabilities to help a researcher solve a math equation.
Okay, I think it's division. Let me try to divide both sides by 3 and let me see what I get.
Bingo! Go ahead and divide both sides by 3.
Okay, so ChatGPT, this is what I ended up with. How does this look?
It looks perfect. You've solved it, and x equals 1. Nicely done. How do you feel about solving linear equations now?
OpenAI's Chief Technology Officer, Mira Murati, says the new model would be offered for free. She added that paid users of GPT-4o will have greater capacity limits than the free users. Shortly after launching in late 2022, ChatGPT was called the fastest application ever to reach 100 million monthly active users. But OpenAI faces growing competition and pressure to expand the user base of ChatGPT.
Well, in an attempt to compete with OpenAI rivals, Google parent company Alphabet has unveiled beefed-up AI chat box as competition heats up. The new AI features unveiled on Tuesday will help investors evaluate Alphabet's progress as it races against Microsoft, OpenAI, and other rivals in emerging technology domain. Google announced improvements to its Gemini Pro 1.5 model that is capable of making sense of a massive amount of data. Google said it was doubling that amount to 2 million tokens, meaning the AI potentially could answer questions when given thousands of pages of text or more than an hour of video to ingest. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. 13 people were killed in a crash on a motorway in the Andean region of the South American country. 7 ambulances with 24 health personnel were dispatched to the site after the incident. Authorities say the injured had been taken to 3 separate hospitals for treatment. Nepal is set to formulate a plan of action to replace the fossil fuel with clean and renewable energy so as to attain the net zero carbon emission target by 2045. The Nepal government will prepare an action plan with a goal to execute the commitments to improve the current scorching scenario of human-driven climate change. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Campaigning in full swing continues ahead of phase 5 of the Indian general elections. 49 seats are going to polls in this phase on May 20th. In a tragic incident, 14 feared trapped in India's Kolihan mine as lift carrying vigilance team crashes. Indian space research organizations Aditya L1 Chandrayaan-2 capture strongest solar storm in 21 years.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Time now for a quick recap of the headlines. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Russia must pay for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction, says the U.S. intends to use Russia's assets for the purpose. Putin says open talks on Ukraine. Georgia's foreign agents bill prompts angry reactions at home and abroad. U.S. calls it a Kremlin-style law, warns that if it failed to meet EU standards, relations will be hit. And Cannes Film Festival kicks off with a screening of French comedy The Second Act and an honorary Palme d'Or for Hollywood actor Meryl Streep. And now let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. While campaigning continues to gain momentum ahead of the phase 5 of the Indian general elections, leaders from various political parties will be holding rallies on Wednesday. 49 seats are going to polls in this phase on May 20th. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding a roadshow in Mumbai in Maharashtra state. He is also scheduled to address 2 public meetings in the state. BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah will address a rally in West Bengal. BJP candidate and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is scheduled to address a rally in Lucknow. Singh is seeking a 3rd term as a Member of Parliament from the constituency. Opposition Congress leader Rahul Gandhi will participate in a bike rally in Odisha. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi is scheduled to hold election campaigns in Uttar Pradesh state. While Aam Aadmi Party Supremo and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal will be attending a public meeting in UP's Lucknow. While Jharkhand is a state of India located in the eastern part of the nation, the meaning of the term Jharkhand is the land of jungles. The state was formed after separating the southern part of Bihar. It is considered one of the most natural resource-rich states. Among 40% of India's total mineral wealth amounts from here. Ranchi is the capital, while Dhanbad, the coal capital of India, is also in Jharkhand. Let us understand the dynamics of the state, and as it also boasts of India's first planned industrial city.
Dotted with hills and waterfalls, the eastern Indian state of Jharkhand is among the country's most resource-rich regions. The state, which has 14 seats in the lower house of the Indian Parliament, is going to the general elections in 4 phases. The polling dates are May 13, 20th, 25th and June 1st. Known as the land of forest, Jharkhand was carved out of Bihar in 2000 with Ranchi as its capital after a long-standing tribal movement for statehood. The state has over 32 tribes, including the Santals, Mundas and the Gonds. With a geographical area of nearly 80,000 square kilometers, the state's current population is about 40 million. There are over 25 million eligible voters, out of which 12.9 million are male, 12.4 million are female, and nearly 470 individuals belong to the third gender. Blessed with natural resources, Jharkhand accounts for 40% of India's total mineral wealth. It is home to the country's largest coal reserves, third largest copper reserves, and the 7th largest bauxite reserves. Parts of Jharkhand have battled security challenges in the past due to Maoists, but their activities have declined considerably in the recent years. As for the state's current political scenario, it is governed by a coalition led by the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha. The alliance also includes Congress and the Rashtriya Janata Dal. Other prominent parties in Jharkhand are the Bharatiya Janata Party and the All India Jharkhand Students Union. During the 2019 general elections in Jharkhand, of the total of 14 seats, the Bharatiya Janata Party won 11, while the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, All India Jharkhand Students Union and the Congress bagged 1 seat each. The election desk for DD India.
Well, Odisha is an Indian state well known for its diversity in culture and nature. A quick peek into the demographics of the state as amid the Indian general elections.
Situated in eastern India, the Odisha state is blessed with mineral resources such as coal, limestone, lead and gold. The state accounts for 57% of India's total iron ore production. Spread over an area of over 1.5 lakh square kilometers, Odisha has a 485-kilometer long coastline. Its capital, Bhubaneswar, one of modern India's first planned cities, has emerged as an education hub. Other prominent cities include Puri, which is home to popular Hindu deity Jagannath Mahaprabhu. The city also hosts the famous Rath Yatra, or the chariot festival dedicated to the Lord, which attracts visitors and pilgrims from all over the world. Located near Puri is the 13th century Konark Sun Temple and is well known for its architecture. The state also has a rich cultural history that dates back to the 4th century BC. The region was part of the Kalinga Empire, which was invaded by Mauryan Emperor Ashoka. In the 2024 general elections, Odisha, which has 21 seats in the Lok Sabha or the lower house of the Indian Parliament, is going to polls in 4 phases. The state has 33.2 million voters, out of which 16.4 million are men, 15.8 million are women, and over 3,200 belong to the third gender. Odisha is governed by the Biju Janata Dal. Other prominent parties are the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Congress. In the 2019 general elections in Odisha, the BJD won 12 seats, the BJP bagged 8, while the Congress got 1 seat. In Odisha, the 2024 Lok Sabha polls will be held simultaneously with the state legislative assembly elections, making the political battle in the state a riveting one. Anu Kaushik for DD India.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Indian spacecraft Aditya L1 and Chandrayaan 2 have recorded and analyzed the strongest solar storm in 21 years. A powerful solar storm impacted the Earth last week, triggered by the highly active region AR13664. This region unleashed a series of X-class flares and coronal mass ejections directed at the Earth. According to ISRO, the resulting geomagnetic storm was the most intense since 2003, causing disruptions to communication and GPS systems. At least 14 people are feared trapped in India's Kolihan mine in Rajasthan state. The incident took place after lift carrying vigilance team crashed in the late hours of Tuesday. Rescue operation is underway. Ambulances have been rushed to the spot and doctors have been asked to prepare for any situation. Major fire broke out in India's Bali-Tirshi block of Udhampur forest range during the early hours of Wednesday. The effort to douse the fire are underway by the forest department officials. Reason for the fire is yet to be ascertained. Seven family members of a family, including minors, were feared drowned while swimming in Narmada River in India's Gujarat. Search and rescue operations are underway. So far, no traces have been found yet. And still to come in DD India NewsHour. Indian economy projected to expand at 6.6% in financial year 2025. In sports, Indian shuttlers Satvik Sairaj, Renka Reddy and Chirag Shetty begin their campaign at Thailand Open Badminton Tournament with thumping win. And US Secretary of State Antony Blinken picked up a red guitar during key visit with a message for Ukraine. Stay tuned to know what's that.
Hype versus facts. In-depth news and analysis with experts who will help you decide why this election matters. DD India is the main election headquarters with numbers most accurate, data most reliable, and viewership across the platforms. Stay tuned to the Great Indian Election only on weekdays at 8:30 p.m. IST and 1500 hours GMT.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News now. Lipakshi Khuranan moving on. The Cannes Film Festival kicks off on Tuesday with the unveiling of Greta Gerwig's jury and the presentation of an honorary Palme d'Or as the French Riviera Spectacular kicks off a potentially volatile 77th edition. A 10-day stream of stars flowing down Cannes' famous red carpet, beginning with the opening night film, The Second Act, a French comedy starring Léa Seydoux, Vincent Lindon, Louis Garrel and Raphael Quenard. Hollywood actor Meryl Streep was honored with Palme d'Or at the film festival. She was overwhelmed as she received a 2-minute-long standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival. A video shows the actor pretending to walk off the stage, but she returned and danced to the applause. Speaking at the event, she said that she thought her career was over when she turned 40. And for more on the glittering event in Cannes, we are joined by our correspondent Shama Mishra from there. Well, Shama Khan serves as a melting pot of different cultures and cinema. Can you give us an overall of the festival right now after the glittering opening ceremony yesterday?
Well, Lepakshi, we have all seen the visuals, the fresh visuals of the red carpet where Meryl Streep walked down the carpet, and it was really refreshing to watch her coming to Cannes red carpet after 30 long years. So we have seen those visuals as well, and it was like I was saying, it was really refreshing and entertaining as well. The whole atmosphere of the Cannes or the Palais des Festivals, where the festival takes place, it's really exciting, and this is just the start. This is just the first day. Today, when we are talking about the second day, it is also an important eventful day because Marché du Film, the film bazaar, what we call in Hindi, that is going to be inaugurated today, and along with that, Bharat Pavilion, where the Indian film people can connect with the world film personalities. Bharat Pavilion is also an important factor over here. It has been named as Sutradhara. We understand that Sutradhara is something that connects, and here we understand that already 200 meetings have been lined up. There is also an option available where the international people from the film world, then they can come register and also schedule another meeting. So we understand this number of 200 is likely to go up or must have already gone up. Along with that, there is some concept called speed dating, which is not related to the male and female, but the producers and distributors of India and various other countries, including UK, New Zealand, Australia. So they can come, and in around 8 minutes they can talk about the promotions, distributions, co-productions, and then can decide whether to crack the deal or move ahead. Apart from that, we are understanding that 108 Village International, this is a place where all the pavilions of various countries have been put up.
Right.
So around 60 is the number of the countries that have already put up their pavilions. And in Marché du Film also, there's a lot to offer, wherein you have AI, you have tech, you have everything which is related to movie and technology, which is on display, and number of countries are showcasing their talent. So each country is trying to do business over here, as well as promote their culture, promote their films through the medium of Cannes Film Festival.
All right, and exciting days ahead as 7 Indian movies also to be screened there. Thank you so much, Shama, for all that information from there. And moving on to some business news, Moody's rating expect the growth of the Indian economy at 6.6% for financial year 2024-2025. The global agency said that the growth will be driven by a strong credit demand that will boost the non-bank financial company sector. It also said that the Indian economy has emerged stronger from the COVID-19 pandemic. Moody's added that India benefited from infrastructural development. And Wall Street's main indexes also advanced on Tuesday, and the Nasdaq scored a record closing high. The record surge comes as Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell reassured investors while they digested Tuesday's data and waited for Wednesday's crucial consumer inflation report. U.S. producer prices increased more than expected in April as the cost of services and goods rose sharply, leading traders to reduce bets of a first rate cut in September. The S&P 500 gained 0.48%, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.75%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose to 0.32%. And the increase in the U.S. cost of production more than expected in April indicates that inflation remained stubbornly high early in the second quarter. The report from the Labor Department on Tuesday also showed wholesale goods prices rising solidly last month as producer price index for final demand rose by 0.5% last month after falling in March. The following recent surveys showing a significant increase in inflation expectations, prompting traders to trim bets for a September interest rate cut from the Federal Reserve. And Asian markets trade higher ahead of release of key inflation data by the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 index was up by nearly 140 points. However, the Shanghai Composite fell by 0.38%. In the Indian markets, the Sensex was hovering around 73,000 points, while the Nifty was at around 22,000 points. The best performing sectors included metal and FMCG. Well, a group of TikTok creators have filed a suit in the U.S. federal court seeking to block a law signed by President Joe Biden that would force the divestment of the short video app used by 170 million Americans or ban it. The TikTok users, who include a hip-hop artist and a Marine Corps veteran who sells ranch products, said the law endangered free speech. The U.S. Justice Department has said the TikTok law addresses critical national security concerns. Last week, TikTok and its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, filed a similar lawsuit, arguing that the law violates the U.S. Constitution. An American automotive company, Tesla, opens new tab plans to lay off an additional 601 employees from California. Amid falling sales and intensifying price competition, Tesla CEO Elon Musk said on April 15 that the company would lay off more than 10% of its global workforce. The electric vehicle maker has conducted several rounds of job cuts since then. The latest layoff plan would affect employees at Tesla's facilities in Palo Alto and Fremont in California. And in sports news, Indian shuttlers Satvak Sairaj, Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty kicked off their campaign at Thailand Open Badminton Tournament with a thumping win. The top-seeded Indian pair, who are one of the favourites to win the tournament, trounced the Malaysian pair of Nur Mohammad Azharin Ayub Azharin and Tanvi Keong 21-13, 21-13 in straight games. Satvik and Chirag will play the Chinese pair of Shi Hao Nan and Zheng Wei Huan in the next round. Meanwhile, Indian top shuttler and last year's Thailand Open men's singles semi-finalist Lakshya Sen has pulled out of this year's tournament. Two-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu has also decided to withdraw from the Thailand Open in order to focus on the Paris 2024 Olympics preparation. And the Indian javelin thrower and Olympic gold medalist Neeraj Chopra will compete in the 27th Federation Cup National Championship on Wednesday. Chopra will feature in the final of men's javelin throw event on the concluding day. The championship began on May 12th in India's eastern city of Bhubaneswar. This will be Chopra's first domestic competition since 2021. And Erling Haaland's double put Manchester City within touching distance of an unprecedented fourth successive Premier League title as they beat Tottenham Hotspur 2-0 on Tuesday. The Norwegian tapped home his side's opener early in the second half and settled City's nerves in stoppage time when he blasted home a penalty for his 27th league goal of the season. City had failed to earn a point or score a goal in their first 4 league visits to Tottenham's new stadium, but ended with a jinx in timely fashion to the joy of their supporters. Pep Guardiola's City have 88 points to Arsenal's 86 and will be guaranteed to become the first side to win 4 English titles in a row if they beat West Ham United at home on Sunday, when Arsenal must beat Everton and hope for the best. And in the Indian Premier League, Rajasthan Royals will look to confirm their place in the playoffs when they take on Punjab Kings in Guwahati on Wednesday. The Royals have come close multiple times to book their place in the knockout stage, but have not been successful so far. They come into this contest in the back of 3 consecutive losses. A win will easily take them to the playoff stage, and a loss will keep them waiting for their last match. The Royals will be without the services of Joss Butler, who has returned to England to gear up for the upcoming T20 World Cup. They are currently at the 2nd spot in the points table. On the other hand, Punjab Kings are out of reckoning in the tournament as they hold the bottom place. They'll play for their pride. Also, Delhi Capitals kept their playoff dreams alive with a 19-run victory over Lucknow Super Giants in Delhi. Tristan Stubbs and Abhishek Parel guided Delhi Capitals to a big total of 208 for the loss of 4 wickets. In chase, Lucknow Super Giants could only manage 189 for the loss of 9, despite half-century from Nicholas Pooran and Arshad Khan. An American, Tommy Paul, upset second seed and defending champion Dylan Medvedev in Rome to advance to the Italian Open quarterfinals. The 14th seed needed just an hour and 14 minutes to ease past his Russian opponent 6-1, 6-4 and set up a last 8 meeting with Poland's Hubert Hurkacz. German third seed Alexander Zverev beat Portugal's Nuno Borges 6-2, 7-5 and will next face American Taylor Fritz, who claimed a 6-2, 6-7, 6-1 victory over Grigor Dimitrov of Bulgaria. Alejandro Tabilo came out on top in a close match against Karen Khachanov of Russia, with the Chilean winning 7-6, 7-6 to set up an encounter with China's Zhang Zhizhen, who beat Thiago Monteiro of Brazil 7-6, 6-3. The final quarter-final places were filled by Stefanos Tsitsipas and Nicolas Jarry. And two-time champion Iga Swiatek eased into the Italian Open semi-finals with a 6-1, 6-3 win over 18th seed Madison Keys. Swiatek will face American third seed Coco Gauff for a spot in the final. In the remaining quarter-finals on Wednesday, while number 2 Aryna Sabalenka will face 9th seed Jelena Ostapenko before Victoria Azarenka plays American 13th seed Danielle Collins. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Tuesday picked up a red guitar at a basement bar in Kyiv with a message for Ukraine that the U.S. and much of the world was fighting not just for Ukraine but for the free world. They played Neil Young's Rockin' in the Free World, a rock anthem released in 1989, just before the fall of the Berlin Wall. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Vipakshi Kurana from one of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.